This is the Bottom Line Sports Show with Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
Imagine you trade a Chet Holmgren for a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
These guys are athletic as you know what, and you go like, oh my gosh, where's the fundamentals? Where's the pass first mentality? That's not in the league anymore.
And now here's your host, Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
Gerald Brown here. What's up, everybody? Waiting on the big man, Mr. Rick Mahorn. Waiting on him to get in, as well as Nick Ferguson will be joining. As you can see, I got my jersey on. I'm ready. Waiting on Rick to get in here. Don't forget, make sure you subscribe to the show. Dynamic show as always. And I'm really, really excited about this because we're going to get down and dirty with this whole scouting combine, because it was really confusing to say the least, but nevertheless, it was very, very something to talk about. And kudos to the NFL. I mean, when I look at the NFL, I say clearly they know what they're doing. They got their product. They know how to market it. And even in the midst of a off season. What's up, Rick? What you get that face for, man?
Because we just got back from an event, so that's why I got this face. I was like, I didn't think it was today.
You always staying on the go, man.
I'm sorry. Can I come back on next week?
Shut up, man. You see Nick Ferguson there. Former NFL player Nick Ferguson is
What's
joining
up,
us
Nick?
here.
What's going on, guys?
Hey, I don't like neither one of y'all.
Why you always start that?
Shut up, man. You with your fake jersey on. You know
No,
that ain't
it's
real.
fake. You see that, right? That's that. You see that, right?
That's not
Yeah, I saw
authentic.
that.
It is too. Wait a minute.
Nick, tell them China sells a lot of those things like that.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Are your numbers ironed on?
No, they sewn on. They sewn on.
No, they ain't sewn on. In fact, they just glued on. They ain't.
Velcro numbers, huh?
Hey, Nick. Hey, thanks again for joining us. Big Rick is out there. You know, Rick is always on.
Rick got to go. Rick in San Antonio. Rick got to go get something to eat. I ain't messing with you right now.
Hey, shut up, man. What you out in San Antonio for? I thought y'all was in Cleveland.
It was in Cleveland. Yeah, that was yesterday we played.
Oh, y'all play the Spurs tonight.
Yeah, we're playing tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Won't you get a real job, and then you can find out where the hell I'm at.
Shut up, Rick.
You shut up. Hey, Gerald. Hey, that jersey look a little too small. You're going to have to go get one a bigger jersey or something.
Hey, but you know what, Rick? We got Nick Ferguson on here real quick. Rick, Nick, thoughts on this whole combine and stuff, and understanding, because I'm confused in regards to, you looked at Sonny Styles on the tape, what he did during the regular season. Marvell Reese was the one that was talked about more than him. All of a sudden now, you have Sonny Styles do all this stuff in the combine, non-football related. He got up to it. He's up higher than Marvell Reese. What do you make of it?
Well, here's what happens with the NFL Combine. Look at it this way. It is one of the major professional sports where they have all these events. We call them the T-shirt and short Olympics, but they're basically designed to find out your weaknesses as a player so the teams can exploit them and then choose to not draft you because certain, aspects of the game. And we see a lot of young players, man, they perform well on the collegiate level. They go into the combine with a lot of aspirations, and during the evaluation process, teams are trying to figure out, do the carpets and the drapes actually match? And what I mean by that, does your game film match with what they're seeing in person? Do you look the part, right? Because that's the biggest thing. Like Rick is a huge guy. And back in his day, he was a menace on a basketball court based on his size. So this is what NFL teams are looking for. They're looking for guys who have that size that measures up to the tape that they had.
I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna go get a place quieter so I can really roast Gerald. But
What are you talking about? Why are you going after me? What are you going after me for? And shave your mustache next time.
Nick, I'll be back, Nick.
All right.
Gerald, I shall return.
See, you done
Make,
made it. You done
make,
made it this day.
make sure you go put some lotion on because you ashy as a mother. Nasty face.
You have to excuse him. You have to excuse him. Rick enjoyed us. He gets to a little bit quieter because when I'm sitting up here, I want Sonny Styles after seeing him. How impressed were you as a former player with the performance of a Sonny Styles, even though he didn't have no shoulder pads on, no helmet? And are you buying into all of this hype that's centered around him?
Well, I'm not going to say I'm buying into all of the hype because every single year we see maybe 5 to 10 players who run fast and they test well. And everyone starts talking about how great these guys are going to be as prospects. And once they hit the NFL, some guys pan out, some guys don't. So I am going to reserve the rights to hold off on any of my impressions of Sonny Styles or even his brother for that matter. But I just know that great athletes. They tested well. They played well at Ohio State. Both guys, if I'm not mistaken, they were trained by a guy named Les Spellman, who Les Spellman has trained a lot of guys. Like you remember maybe 2-3 years ago out of Cincinnati, the quarterback Desmond Ridder, who went in the first round to the Atlanta Falcons. He was subpar as a quarterback, but he ran a fast 40, which jumped him up a lot of boards. But we see that he doesn't have a football home right now. So that tells you a lot about guys who kind of perform well, but not well enough from an NFL standpoint. But Styles is going to be one of those players that there's a lot of teams out there salivating, licking their chops, hoping that they actually grab him. And looking at your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they picked 15th in the upcoming draft. 15th. I mean, you're not in the top 5. You're outside the top 10. So, I mean, if you are Jason Light and you're Todd Bowles, you got to find a way. If Styles is one of the guys that you want, you got to find a way to get him out there because in its entirety, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have about 18 guys, if I'm not mistaken, 9 on offense, 9 on defense that are set to become free agents starting March 11th. So they're going to need to replace a lot of guys, but do they have the draft capital to move up and get a guy like Styles?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the thing is, I no disrespect to, Gerald McCoy, but I remember that year when Ndamukong Suh was just so dominant. He was there. And we were down the ranks and stuff like that, and we couldn't get him. And that thing really, really hurt. But Gerald McCoy, excellent player, longevity, but you just need a dog. And something about Sonny Styles, obviously the bloodline and everything. But that was the thing where I said, wait a minute, am I in a situation where it's fool's gold? You believe in what you see on tape as opposed to what you're seeing, in this combine, opposed to what you see on tape. What was your overall impression in terms of your biggest and your overall takeaway from the combine, which featured everybody that from obviously offense to defense? What was your overall biggest takeaway?
But the biggest takeaway is these dudes are fast now.
Yeah.
Right. The idea was when I came out, big dudes were going to run like slow times. And when I say big dudes, I'm talking offensive linemen. So the one thing that you're measuring from those guys, not their 40, but what their 10-yard split was. But now you see a lot of guys running 4.2, 4.3s and almost in the kind of like the sub 4.1 category. And that was kind of unheard of over the past couple of years. So as an evaluator, you're thinking, okay, well, with guys running as fast times now as they did in years past, well, how do you break these guys down? Right? Because it was usually the speed was going to separate guys and allow them to jump up the draft board. But everyone's running fast now. Everyone's running 4.2, 4.3, 4.45. So for me, it's going back to the tape, looking at the tape, because when you have a month or 2 months to train for an event like this, guys are now sophisticated now. I talk about Les Spellman, who has a lot of guys in this particular combine who tested well. I think he had about 19, 20 guys who were either in the top 20 or the top 10. So we know there's a sophistication with the training, and that's getting, with that training is getting much better. So the idea is that, well, when you watch the film, are you watching these same guys run the 40 and the 3-cone and the short shuttle the same way they perform? Because some guys are just great at testing. But when you throw them out there on the gridiron where the real tests are, they don't really show up. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks projected, to go in the first round, and some of those guys did. I mean, you think about Johnny Manziel, you think about Jake Locker over the years, Blaine Gabbert, right? A lot of those guys went in the first round, but they never really panned out because their stars faded. So you have to look at it with an open view if you are talent evaluating and say, okay, well, listen, what are some of the key factors we're looking for in some of these athletes? And it goes back to being, position regimented, right? Because with quarterbacks, they want guys who have strong arms, who are mobile, but we hear a lot about, hey, listen, what is his hand size? And I'm like, I don't give a damn about his hand size. I mean, can he get the ball where I needed him to get to? Is he a smart guy? Does he use his feet? Is he a good leader? These are the things that I'm looking at, but it all depends on who they evaluate and what they're looking for.
When you look at a guy like you're hearing hand size, arm length, and Ruben Bain, and hearing all the stuff about him having short arms and stuff. How much do you buy into the fact is that maybe that's kind of a smokescreen and people saying that he might drop a little because of his arms and just basically the length of his arms? How much of that do you believe is perhaps maybe serious talk of maybe sliding down the draft, or potentially a just smokescreen for a team that wasn't able to get him or didn't think they were going to get him, and hopefully trying to see if he will slide down to them?
Well, for me, it's smokescreen, because if we're talking about a guy and his arm length being a detriment to him, we're talking about maybe an offensive tackle that you're projecting to go in the first round, and he has short arms. Usually those tackles are tall, long arms, and if you get a tall guy who's projected as a tackle and he's got short arms, 9 times out of 10, that guy's going to get kicked into a guard position because he has shorter arms. But when you look at, Ruben Bain Jr., I mean, he was a monster. You can say whatever you want to say about him having short arms. All I know, when you turn on the tape, he's destroying dudes. And you got to slide to protect him. You got to dedicate, a tight end or maybe a running back to try to chip him on his way out. A guy with short arms who's demanding that much attention from you offensively, that's a game record. Right. But like I said, this is the time of the year where I call the lion season, where people start telling lies. Because remember what the draft is. It is not to elevate players, it's to find weakness and flaws in your game. So it helps the team so they can say, well, Ruben Bain Jr. is falling down the draft board. Okay. Well, if he falls to 15, guess what? Todd Bowles has an opportunity to pick up an extraordinary defensive lineman. And guess what? When we think about a lot of these players, you say, okay, well, a guy may not have the right size, the arm length, or whatever. I mean, there are players who have been passed over in years past, and those players have dominated the game of football. The jersey of the guy that you're wearing right now, I mean, he was a 6th-round draft choice. So many teams passed over him, but he outlasted so many of the guys who were drafted, around the same time he was drafted or even before him. Like, case in point, remember Aaron Donald? The whole idea was Aaron Donald was just short in stature, right? But he dominated. John Randall, who was a free agent coming, I think John Randall might have been undrafted coming into the NFL. And guess what? He became a Hall of Famer. So what it says to me is that the league has their list of things that they're trying to measure as far as what they think a player should be. All I know is players play. And it comes down to this simple idea. There are football players, and then there are guys that play football. Those are 2 different things, right? So who's to say that a smaller guy or a Ruben Bain Jr. can't go in the NFL and dominate it, even with small arms?
Yeah, when you speaking of that, I mean, that's really interesting. Is football players and guys that play football. When you look at a guy like the big story that's out now is about Caleb Downs reportedly having issue, degenerative, I think ACL or some issues within his knee. that's kind of sort of like red flags or potentially a torn something in his knee issues. Let's just leave it at that. What do you make of that and having this come out? Because like you said before, it's Lion season, and obviously you're hearing this stuff. Clearly, do you think it's going to really affect his draft stock? And that's once again another guy that you potentially can see maybe getting sliding down, and still obviously have an opportunity to show and really show that again people made a big mistake with them.
Yeah, it's going to impact his draft status for sure, because teams are looking for red flags. And what I mean by red flags, either injuries or character flaws. Because if you have either of those, that means you're not going to go maybe in the top 50 of players. So you're going to drop. And the more that people leapfrog you, and other teams say, you know what, we'll wait. Maybe we can get this guy, maybe Mr. Irrelevant or later in the draft. So now you're going to become very valuable to another team that didn't expect to see you on the board. And they go, oh, wow, Caleb Downs is still here. And they're going to say, well, turn to another guy. Well, what was the issue with his leg injury? Is it something that's really detrimental? Okay, well, we'll pick him up maybe in the 5th or 6th round. So that way you didn't use a lot of or high draft capital on him. And then now you bring him on as a project. Those are the guys that you bring in, and those guys are angry. They have a chip on their shoulders or a mountain on their shoulders where they want to prove people wrong. See, the league is made up of more of those types of guys. And the reason I know, because hell, I was one of those guys, and I took it personal. Just like Tom Brady, every time I came up against a team that passed over me, and I wanted to show them exactly what they missed. So Caleb Downs would just be another guy, almost like a Justin Fields or maybe Caleb Williams, who people thought, well, you know what, that guy's not going to pan out. Hell, I even say Shedeur Sanders, right? Remember what happened to him, and as I mean, we can't really prove this, but it's been said that there was some form of collusion against him, even though we can't prove it. But when we look at how things pan out, I mean, hell, you had this guy who was not perceived as being maybe drafted in the top 3 rounds, end up playing for Cleveland. And yeah, he had his bumps and bruises, but he played pretty decent. He played better than Dylan Gabriel, who was taken over him in the 3rd round. So it goes back to the beauty being in the eye of the beholder. But there are a lot of these players that we're going to see them fall. We're going to see some guys rise. And, I remember what was it, maybe 6 or 8 years ago, something like that, where on draft day, there was a photo leaked of Laramie Tunsil.
Yes.
With the gas mask on, smoking weed. And it's like, well, where was that in the draft process? Someone put this out the day of the draft, right, with the intention of impacting and affecting his draft status. So, things are just starting. The Lions season is just starting. When we get to the draft, teams are on the clock. We're going to see so much information pop up about players, not elevating the players, but trying to bring them down.
When you look at guys that like you talked about these, obviously the undrafted or the guys that are coming to the combine. We had a lot of guys that showed up this year and participated, big names and stuff like that, and really got out there. But what do you take away from these guys that don't show up, or the guys that's not invited? How important is their pro day when they do have those specific things? I'm looking at a guy like C.J. Allen, specifically, another linebacker and stuff that's out there that didn't participate. But what do you expect, and how important will their pro day be?
Those pro days for the guys who were not invited to the combine, it is vital to their NFL future, because at the combine, I mean, we got a chance to see so many guys, especially linebacker, running backs, and those guys, kind of put themselves on the map with their times and what they did with the bench press and the other drills. So for you're already behind the 8 ball. Teams are already positioning their boards based on what they saw at the combine, and it's up to you to change their mind. Could you run a fast 40 to get them to now go, you know what? We were not looking at this kid before. Maybe we should take a second or maybe even the 3rd look. So those pro days are great. For some of those players who performed at the combine and they ran well, they're not performing at the pro day. They're like, look, you already saw what I can do. I'm not doing anything else. And it's some players have a luxury, like Marvin Harris Jr. last year. He didn't run he didn't do anything at the combine. At his pro day, he didn't do anything at his pro day. So he went through the whole draft process and he didn't do anything at all. And he still was a first-round draft choice by the Arizona Cardinals. Not every single player has that luxury or blessed to have that luxury. So we had some guys at the combine that may have done 1 or 2 drills. And after they ran their 40, they were like, man, I'm done, because that was kind of the most important thing that a lot of teams wanted to see players, because when you run that 40, that's something that either puts you on the map or makes people go, ooh, wow, I thought he was going to run faster than that. So there's a lot of emphasis put on the 40-yard dash, but it was a lot of guys that really, truly helped themselves.
Yeah. Nick, when you, and putting yourself in that situation, and you've been through it, when you are a guy that obviously 4th, 5th, and maybe even the 6th round starts to hit and you haven't heard your name called, is there a certain belief or sort of mindset to say, I'd rather be a undrafted free agent and now decide where I want to go? Or is it still holding true to wanting to hear your name called and still be drafted?
You still want to hear your name called, right? And idea is that if you drafted the 4th round and beyond, you might as well be a undrafted player. I'll tell you that as an undrafted player, it sounds great, but as your career moves on, the one thing you can always say is that I was drafted. No matter where it was, I was drafted, because living that undrafted life is really tough, because when you hit your second contract, teams are still looking at, well, you played well in your first 3 or 4 years, but remember, you're still an undrafted player, right? So that does have a way of impacting you in your pockets when teams start to look at you as far as your second contract. Look at it this way. We've seen a lot of first-round players, and you can choose any position. Those guys get 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe even 5th opportunities. You know why? They are former first-rounders. So when someone goes in the room and saying, hey, man, hey, we got Gerald Brown, well, you know what? Gerald didn't really pan out in his first 4 years. It doesn't make a difference. Gerald's a former first-rounder, right? He's a first-round talent. So teams are willing to take a chance on first-round talent opposed to a guy that was undrafted. So if you have the ability to have your name called on draft day, man, it is not just a blessing for you. It's a blessing for your family. It's a blessing for all the hard work that you put in. And it's something that potentially pays dividends later in your career, because you can always say that you were drafted.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I'm going to make sure to get you out of here, because I know we said, obviously don't going to take up too much of your time. I know Rick is moving around down in San Antonio. Make sure you get him back on. And you got to get him on your show, man. You got some of these guys on your show. Make sure that we'll definitely get on that. But I want to ask you to touch on, obviously, free agency. Now we have an abundance, if you will, some kind of name brand quarterbacks that are out there. We know Kirk Cousins is out there. Kyler Murray was let go. $36 million taken with him by the Arizona Cardinals. He's out there. You have Justin Fields, who's going to be out there. What do you make of this crop of free agent quarterbacks that potentially could, obviously, still be decided in terms of, whatever Aaron Rodgers does. But I imagine if he doesn't play for the Steelers, he's going to retire. But what do you make of this crop of free agent quarterbacks that potentially could be out there? And who do you see potentially moving up that list, getting the first opportunity to be signed with a new team?
Well, right now, when you look at some of the backup quarterbacks or the quarterbacks that are going to be out there, there are not a lot of good ones. There are a lot of them, but there are not a lot of good ones. And when teams are looking for quarterbacks, they're looking for, some of them are looking for starters. Others are looking for quality backups that can come in and bring a young quarterback along. And of some of those quarterbacks that are out there, I would say the one that has the most value is Kyler Murray. Because even though Kyler Murray didn't perform well with the Arizona Cardinals, I asked you this question. What players or what quarterbacks have performed well with the Arizona Cardinals? There hasn't really been many. And there are a lot of questions about Kyler Murray and his leadership, and the fact that the team actually had to put some kind of policy into his contract where he had to really spend time watching film and not playing video games. That still blows my mind. But of the quarterbacks that are available, he is probably one of the more talented guys. Now, it all depends on where he goes, which will determine, how well he moves forward from this standpoint. And I think that Minnesota would be a great place for him. his ability to move around, Kevin O'Connell, and just think about what Kevin O'Connell has done with Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. So if you want to go to what I'll call quarterback rehab school, courtesy of the Minnesota Vikings, that may be an excellent place for Kyler Murray to go and really show what he can do. I mean, they have some really talented pieces in Minnesota, and he would definitely help them out tremendously. And you brought up Aaron Rodgers, so I definitely want to talk about that situation. I think Aaron Rodgers should give it one more go with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike McCarthy. They've worked together before with the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know, they hadn't always got along, but they had moments where they made beautiful music together. I would love just to see from a football standpoint, Mike McCarthy get back with Aaron Rodgers and they give it one more go.
What do you see the Jets doing? Obviously, you know, they took a big hit when the young man Dante Moore decided to stay in the school, get paid, didn't even want to mess with anything looking like the New York Jets. And you have this team that's out there. Obviously, they're going to probably move on from Justin Fields. You know, clearly they need something to pretty much, again, have Aaron Glenn have an opportunity to have success there in New York, which is really, really starved. And the quarterback position hasn't worked out. They've tried the rookies. They tried the veteran with Aaron Rodgers. That didn't work out. When you see a guy, I thought Kirk Cousins would be ideal. He's made a lot of money. He done made a lot of money. I ain't mad at him. He done made a lot of money. Where do you see Kirk Cousins actually being a good fit? I kind of thought it might have been in Atlanta, but obviously that was thrown off once they decided to go out and draft Michael Penix. Where do you see him being a good fit?
Well, I think Kirk Cousins would be an excellent fit with the Minnesota Vikings. You know, going back to a place where he was once before. It's always an opportunity to go back home, right? That's what they always say.
Yeah, you can go back home.
Yeah, it would be good to watch him go back home. If it's not there, the Arizona Cardinals need a quarterback. But here's what we know. The Jets need a quarterback too. But if you're bringing on a guy like Kirk Cousins, he's only a bridge player. And Kirk Cousins has proved he can only get you but so far as the regular season and even smelling the postseason. And the situation that Aaron Glenn finds himself with the Jets, I don't envy that position. I don't envy him in that job, because now you have to start to ask yourself, how long will he be given as far as the leash is concerned to win games? And then, I mean, you're in a division where you have a new head coach in Joe Brady, but you still have, you know, Josh Allen, right? So let's look at that. So you got Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, Miami Dolphins. They don't really have a quarterback. The Jets still trying to figure out, you know, what they're going to do. And we already know what the New England Patriots are with Drake May. So you're in a tough no-win situation. You have to find someone of a quarterback. So there might be a battle between Arizona and the New York Jets as they kind of jockey for position for either Kirk Cousins or Malik Willis.
Now, when you played in New York and you played with the Jets and stuff, I mean, it just seems like, you know what, once the Brady run was over, you kind of looked at that opportunity and said, you know what, this division is going to have to reset. You know, Josh Allen was there, you know, Miami trying to figure out what they were going to do with Tua. They had a couple of good seasons. And now all of a sudden you're seeing the growth and production out of Drake May. What do you make of the situation with the Jets? And why is it so hard for them to be consistent, but more importantly, develop and get consistent quarterback play at that position?
Well, I'll start with the last thing first. It's patience, man. It comes down to patience. And I don't subscribe to this, but a lot of people do. It was just like, well, you have to start with the quarterback position. Yes, you do, but you need to have a competent quarterback. You need to have a game plan. You need to have a scheme, and you need to have a game plan where you say, okay, well, we're going to go out and get our quarterback and we're going to build around him. Now, the other portion of it is we're just going to build our offense and then go get our quarterback. However way you choose to do it, you have to go get a competent guy at the quarterback position. Notice I didn't say anything about arm talent, throwing the ball. I said competent quarterback, because you start there. It's about decision making. And then you have to have an ownership that is willing to listen, willing to be patient, because so many times, you know, scouts, owners, coaches, they are influenced by outside things by the media and the fans. Oh, the fans, I don't want that guy. Listen, man, if you start listening to them, you're going to be fired anyway, right? And at some point, you're always hired to be fired. So you might as well try to build a team in your own image, find a quarterback and say, well, I'm comfortable with this quarterback operating our offense. Even if you know that that quarterback is not a top flight quarterback, it's okay. It's because you build around him. You make sure that you have a decent offensive line. More importantly, you can run the ball. Because if you can't run the damn ball, your quarterback, I don't care if you have Joe Montana, it is not going to work, right? You need a running game. I mean, case in point, let's look at Tom Brady when he won the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes. He got his buddy Gronk. They had Leonard Fournette running the ball, right? So they had great defense. The offensive line was decent. Tom had some passing outlets. Mike Evans was there. You had decent tight end play. Caden Allen, who is a free agent this year. So this is the way you have to build teams. But sometimes front office people, they don't look at it that way. They panic. You just watch Mike McDonald in his second year win the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. So teams are like, well, we got to do that. Let's go out and rush and do this. No, man, slow down and pump your brakes. If you try to do this too fast, like it's like you can preheat it at 30 seconds, like it's a microwave, hot pocket, it's not going to work. It takes time to build a team, but you need to have a damn game plan and you need to stick to it.
I think it's really scary about the quarterback situation in New York and specifically with the Jets because they haven't been able to develop a quarterback. And clearly, I think one of the things that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, some of these guys, not every college quarterback is meant to come and start their rookie season.
Right.
It's okay to groom a guy and let him sit, learn the position, and not have the pressure. And you're right. Patience is a virtue. When it comes to New York, I'll say with the Knicks, I'll say with the Jets, it's immediate success. We want it now. We want it now. We want it now. I think that really destroyed the confidence of a young man, Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Definitely destroyed Geno Smith. Definitely destroyed Sam Darnold. And it's really interesting, with the exception of Wilson, you had Darnold, Super Bowl winning quarterback. You sit back, you saw Geno, he thrived once he left with the Jets. It just seems like they don't have a sort of plan in place to let a guy develop and let a guy sit and learn the specific speed of the game itself, and specifically playing in New York, a lot of that expectation.
You know what I call it? I look at it like the wine theory. I'm not a wine connoisseur, but what I do know about wine, especially expensive wine, I mean, you take the cork out, you let it sit there, you let it breathe for a little. Even when you pour it in your glass, you shake it around, you look at the legs, you smell it, right? So you give it time to kind of develop. The same idea has to be with quarterbacks. But when teams haven't seen a lot of success over the years, they panic. There's a lot of pressure because everyone is talking about what you haven't done, what someone else has done. And it's just like, man, damn them. Stop worrying about them. Worry about yourself. Worry about your own house. Get your own house in order first. And the whole idea, backing up for a second, with the New York Jets, the whole idea was like, once Tom Brady leaves, we're going to run the East. And then it's like, the Bills said, hold on, we're drafting Josh Allen. So the problem for the Jets, they're not having a lot of patience. And it doesn't seem as though there's a strong sense of direction, because you have to tell your fans, we're going down this particular road. So the first 2 years, we may not play our best football. But trust me, after that, we're going to be great, because we found our quarterback. So now finding our quarterback on a rookie deal, we can now use those excess resources to go out there and overly spend for veteran players that can help build out our team. But when you're trying to do it all at once, as though we've seen with the Jets and so many other teams, they fall apart.
Yeah, you hit it right there on the head, because again, Rick Mahorn loves the New England Patriots, and he feels good about his quarterback situation. We were talking about, Rick, the Jets, and not being patient enough to be able to allow guys to be able to grow into a situation. I want to ask, and I want to touch on the correlation of, really, you're with the team, You covering the Pistons, you played for them, and you see the development and growth of a guy that I'm already saying right now, Cade Cunningham is the MVP. All right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear nothing about Shea. It's Cade Cunningham and then Victor Wembanyama right there. Talk about, again, having the patience to allow guys to be able to make their mistakes and growth, but also have a nice, strong support system around them.
And, I wasn't on, earlier on the show, and Nick said something that was very important, that the curtains don't match, the drapes or whatever. I like that analogy, because when you look at professional players, it's something about them having, hey, we're professional, we're going to get paid. But then a lot of these players that come in the league, all they're doing is looking to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, you're going to get paid, but how you separate yourself from everybody else that's what's important. And I use myself as an example. I could score points, I can grab rebounds, but my role, everybody has a role in this league to show, and that's in every league, to show what they can do. That's why when you find people who get traded to another team, it's that team lacks the development that you're trying to do. You have to be patient, but the pupil has to be patient as well. I know, Nick, you ain't gonna sit there and let somebody take your job, because you're gonna go kick their ass, because you want to play just as much as they do, but you're more dedicated than what they do. We look at it from being professional athletes. It's like, I'm better than that dude over there.
Yeah.
Or that dude's got something that I don't have. So the development stage of everything is to put people in a situation where they become hungry, thirsty. It's like you'll never have a guy like Cade Cunningham is the most humblest guy ever. That one of the players that I ever met in this league in today's NBA, because it ain't about what he wants. Is he the MVP? He don't give a damn about all that. You know what he want? He want that ring. He want that chip. And a lot of people don't understand. When you want that chip, you're gonna do what it takes to get that chip.
Yeah, before you joined us, I was telling this to Gerald. I was like, when it comes to football, the way I look at it, there are football players and then there are guys who play football. And there's a difference between those two guys. Like you said, there are guys who they're just happy to have a locker, a jersey number, and they can tell their mom and dad they play in a professional sport, but they don't have that dog in them. And you're right. I mean, for me, I was a walk-on in college. I was an undrafted player, so all the odds were stacked against me. But I ended up playing 10 years in the league and beating the odds. And my mentality was, I don't care if you're my teammate. We're not friends, right? Because I'm trying to take your job, and I know you're trying to take mine. And because I'm an undrafted player, I don't come in with the same cachet as a first rounder. I mean, that first rounder can make as many mistakes as they want to make. And someone's going to justify and make an excuse. For me, no one's making an excuse for me. If I only get 2 reps, that got to be the 2 best reps I've ever had. So for me, my mentality was, I'm smacking you in the I almost said something.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Let's unfilter.
Hey.
Go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Get it off your chest.
Get it off your chest.
Get it off your chest.
Listen, my idea, I'm smacking somebody in the fucking face. Right? That was just my mentality. And when I played, if you talk to any of my former teammates, they would tell you there were several of my teammates who were hurt in practice, right? Because going back really quickly to my time with the Jets, I was there with Bill Parcells. And Bill Parcells, man, he'd tell you how bad you were if your mama was standing right there, right? So he was that type of coach. And for me, being around him, it was about, man, you come to work, you go to work. I don't have time for guys to tell me, hey, man, I want you to slow down this practice. I'm like, no. See, I'm going at 110. If you want to stay at 95, we know what's going to happen. And there were guys who would get injured, but that was the way that I knew how to play the game. Playing fast, play smart, play physical. If that was
hungry.
That's right. And that's the whole thing. The mentality was humble and hungry. If you're not hungry, then you're going to be in trouble. And there's this phrase in our sport called friendly fire. And what that means is that you have someone on your defense who might hit you. And I was one of those guys because the idea was get down to lay down. Either you're going to get the ball carrier on the ground or I'm going to smack you in the face, right?
Mhm.
So that mentality made our defense that much better because if guys saw myself or John Lynch coming, guess what? They're going to work even harder to get that ball carrier on the ground because they knew what was about to happen. So it made everyone that much better. And as a coach in the league, in the NFL, I had very little tolerance for guys who felt as though they were owed something. No, you're not owed anything. You have to go out there and work for it. And when you get it, guess what? You elevate that level of standard and you have to continue to keep doing it. But there are a lot of guys, and I'm sure you know, Rick, you saw it in your sport, that became, or even now, guys are just complacent.
Yeah, and you know, to follow up on what you said, you know, you had Bill Parcells, and I thought every time I would see him, I'd be like, damn, I'm scared of him. He say something to me,
Wait a minute.
I
You
might,
scared of
hey,
him?
hey, I might pee on myself. I don't know. Hey,
Big old-
no. Let me just
Come
tell you
on,
about.
man.
Listen,
He ain't Wes Unseld. God rest his soul. Come on
I
now.
had a college coach, Hank Ford, bless his soul. He was playing pickup with us.
What?
And listen, him the guy I called my pop till his day. The assistant coach was like a dad and a dad role model to me. And they would play pickup games, but everybody would not hit them. And you know, and I'm sitting there going, these motherfuckers playing with us. I'm whooping some ass. I'm getting me some hits, but to have that mentality that you just said, you know, Bill Parcells was just he didn't give a shit.
No.
He didn't give a shit about whatever he wanted to win football games.
Yes.
And if you weren't going to help him win football games, bye bye. And I respect that because a lot of times these coaches are scared of what's above them instead of being themselves and being, you know, this is how I want to, and knowing the temperament of your team as well. You
Yeah.
can't just go out there and say, hey, motherfucker, you gotta be, no, you got to be like, certain people I can yell at, but certain people I can't yell at. But I need to get them to the level where they need to be. And that's what, to me, when I look at sports, I look at it and was talking to a guy earlier today because we had some functions to do. And technology, the way it is now, compared to when we played, man, I play like LeBron James. So I'll be 40, 55 years old. Trust me. They have so much new tech. I mean,
Yeah.
come on now. We all look at now, we all got cell phones, we all got Apple Watches, we got all this stuff. Before it wasn't none of that shit. But technology brings us up to another level.
Yeah.
But don't forget the grassroots of it. That's what it was, because you're hungry,
You're
you're
hungry.
thirsty, you're
Yeah.
humble. And you walk around here, people walk around and they walk around like, yeah, I'm God's gift to whatever. Man, motherfucker, I'm gonna knock your ass down.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of when Deion Sanders first came here to Boulder. And I remember sitting with the media, and he started talking about, you know, bringing his Louis luggage, and people were looking around at one another like trying to figure out what the hell he was saying, but I knew exactly what he was saying. And when you come in as a coach, you have to let players know. Some players you're going to keep because they have that mentality. Some guys, they don't. So you have to let some of those guys go. And I remember a lot of negative things are being said about Coach Prime because he did that. I'm like, there's so many other coaches that do it, but you don't hear about it because they're not high profile coaches. And also, you know, he did this thing where, you know, he bring the players in. And I mean, he's a Christian man, but he's going to keep it 100. And the one thing that he told the kids, he was like, look, hey, I like you as a person, but your skill set is no longer needed. Right. And, you know, people got upset. I'm like, I would prefer someone be honest with me opposed to blowing smoke up my ass. And that's why when you talk about Parcells, when I was there with him as a young player with the Jets, I too was terrified of him because every time I saw him, I'd do a U-turn and go the opposite way, right? Because every time you run into Parcells, hey man, he was so cutthroat no matter what you did, even though you thought you played a perfect game, he was always going to tell you there was something more that you can do. And just real quickly, when we would get up, when we finished the games, there would always be like 4 buses. And I would always look as a young player to see what bus he was on because I didn't want to get on that bus. Now, unbeknownst to me, at some point, we got to get on this thing called the airplane, right? And once I get on the airplane, I can't dodge him. He's going to come back and find you. And he'll come back there with the stat sheet saying, let's see what you did today. And one time he asked me, he was like, man, did you make any plays today? And before I could even part my lips to say a word, he was like, man, you didn't do shit. And I was like, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? Right? What am I supposed to do with that? And then it got to a point where I said, to hell with Bill Parcells. I don't care what he says about me anymore. I play this game for me. I don't play for him. And guess what? That's exactly what he wanted you to do. He wanted you to figure it out yourself, right? So now you're playing for the team, but you're playing for yourself. And there were a lot of players who didn't figure it out, and those guys fell by the wayside, and he cut those guys. But that is the mentality you have to play this game. Because, Rick, I'll tell you this, man. I watched you playing when I was younger back in the day, and I love the physicality of that brand of basketball. And that was kind of my mindset when I played football. I'm like, it's a rough, tough sport, right? I mean, when a little girl falls down, everyone goes, oh, are you okay? When a little boy falls down, no one cares. It's like, get your ass up and dust yourself off, right?
Get your ass up.
Yes. So that was kind of the mentality, right? I'll say this. It didn't really help me out as far as dating women, but it helped me out in my sport. So
well, you ain't have enough game then.
Stop that, Rick.
I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Stop that, Rick. Hey, I want to ask you guys a question before I let you get on that, because Rick, I know you're on the road, and obviously, Nick, I don't want to hold you too long. I want to get to a couple of things. But one of the things is that obviously you guys share the information and obviously talk about obviously your journey. Nick being undrafted, being able to play in the league 10 years. Rick coming from HBCU and then being in the space second round and working, and not only working, but getting out there and making an impact. I want to ask you guys in a hypothetical situation, if you guys had been lottery picks, first round lottery pick, first round pick, and then Rick, you being a lottery pick, if not the first number 1 overall pick, honestly, do you think you guys would still have that hunger, which drove you to the success that you had? I'll ask you first, Rick, and then come to you, Nick.
All right. Here's mine.
Don't lie, Rick.
You know I'm gonna keep it real.
Keep it real. Shout out to Brad.
I'm keeping Cornbread Maxwell. I'm keeping it real. I'd have kicked their ass. Number 1, number 360. I brought it every time. I didn't give a shit. And as I got better as a basketball player at a Division II school, especially at Hampton, I ain't give a fuck about anybody. I wanted to whoop your ass for 40 minutes. And then if you want to go after that, I would have whooped your ass then, because that's what type of person I am. I didn't care about the accolades. I cared about whooping your ass. And that's still instilled in me now, because I do the radio. I'm a broadcaster, but also coach. I just want to win. Winning to me in life, period. I want to beat my death. That's what I want to do. I want to be that person to say, you know what? Fuck it. I can do anything I want in this world, and I don't care what anybody says. If I was the first pick of the draft, I would probably be like Cade Cunningham right now. And that's why I have so much respect for him, because to be humbled and to be able to kill you at the same time, like a Magic Johnson, like a Larry Bird, they don't give a shit about all that. They want to win championship after championship after championship. What do we play the game for?
To win.
That's all I want to do. So I'm about to go to this meeting before they kick my butt.
Yeah.
Hey, Nick, ain't nothing but respect for you. I ain't got nothing but love. Gerald Brown, kiss my ass. Hey,
Yo,
I'll talk to y'all later.
listen,
No,
you got
love
to
you.
get on this show, man.
I
We got to
love
get
you,
you
boy.
on Nick Ferguson's show.
I am. Well, Gerald, I'm working. Good Lord.
Shut up. You ain't working.
I ain't got to sit around you eating jelly beans and
Go
bonbons.
where you got to go and stop putting that dye in your hair, Rick.
Well, you need to put something in yours because you's an ashy. Look at you. You just
Bye, Rick.
Nick. Love y'all, man. Y'all be
Appreciate
good.
it.
Peace.
All right. Hey, Nick, want you to answer that question before I let you get on out of here. In regards to just that whole setup, in terms of, do you think you still had that mindset and had that hunger? Because, obviously, there's a lot of trappings. There's everybody in your face and all that stuff. You have arrived. Do you think that you honestly could sit back and say, would that have changed your mindset if you had that sort of, again, first round safety, I guess, safety?
Yeah, it would have changed my mindset to kind of make me more hungrier, because once you take it in the first round, to me, that standard once again is set pretty high, and you have to continue to live up to that standard and raise that bar for yourself. And oh, by the way, I mean, some of my family members and guys I went to college with, they'll make sure that you remember, right? Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the standard that you set. So those individuals are definitely going to push you. Now it's different for any other players, because for me, even though I was undrafted, my dudes kept it a buck. They were going to call me after game and say, "Hey man, hey you got to get better, man. You got to pipe up, right? You didn't play exactly the way that we know that you can play. So you need to have people around you who are going to hold you accountable, because when you're a first round draft choice, you have a lot of people who are yes people. They want to pat you on the back. They want to tell you how great that you did, but that may not be what you needed. And that's why, when I think about my experience with Bill Parcells, as rough as it was, and I couldn't even believe that Rick Mahorn said that he peed on his leg. That was funny to me, because I've always seen Rick as being a very physical, mentally strong individual, but that tells you what he thinks about a guy like Parcells. So, God blessed me to go through and that path that I went through and connect with Parcells, because he felt as though that I needed that. Yeah. And being around Parcells, that definitely helped me as well. But I don't think if I was drafted in the first round, my mentality would have been any different than still being hungry.
Yeah, it stays with you. Real quickly, you're part of the show, Undrafted. Congratulations, man. You're doing a lot of great, great things. Talk about that project as well as your show.
All right. So for me, I try to have my hands in so many different things. So I have my own, the Nick Ferg Show on YouTube. You can follow that. But also me and a former teammate of mine who played here in Denver, he was a fellow undrafted player. So, we thought to get together and talk about that undrafted mentality, because everyone is going through that situation. Not everyone can be a first round draft choice, right? Not everyone can go to a Power 5 school, because you say, Rick went to Hampton. I went to Morris Brown College in Atlanta before transferring to Georgia Tech. So we're not always selected, right? We have to grind and we have to work our way from the bottom to get to the top. So the point of the draft, the Undrafted podcast was trying to get on people on the show to talk about their journey. And maybe, you could be a first round draft choice, but you didn't pan out. You flamed out. So that was your undrafted position. But how did you kind of go through those stumbles and rally back to get yourself on course? So, man, for me, I'm blessed. I'm happy I'm still able to do a lot of these projects, man. But it's about trying to bring fun, entertainment, and enlightenment to our audience.
Yeah, and you do a great job with that, even on social media. Again, your stories and stuff like that you post in there is a little bit of everything. Definitely got to get Anthony Morrow on there, because he's drafted on the NBA side as well. But you know what, Nick? Listen, really, really appreciate the time. I know we kept you a little longer than expected and stuff, but always a pleasure, my brother. You and yours, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy this time, because, again, I'm sure quite certain it's going to be a lot of twist and turn, especially with free agency next week and the draft not too far off after that.
All right, appreciate it, man. And tell Rick, man, I gotta get his digits to get him on the show.
I'm gonna set that up. I'm gonna do the group text. I'll put y'all all together. I'm gonna make that happen as well as making sure that, again, anything I could do on my end, let me know. Consider it done. I gotta get on the Nick Ferguson show. I want to be on the Nick Ferguson show. Come on, man. I want to be on the Nick Ferguson show, man.
Well, we'll make it happen right after free agency, so we can see what your Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done in free agency, and then we'll go from there.
Definitely, and we also got the NBA playoffs. You got to
There we go.
Man. We got to make sure we do this, man. But definitely appreciate you, brothers. Always, all the best. Definitely look forward to talking to you real soon.
All right, Gerald.
All right, Nick Ferguson joining me here, hanging out here in the Bottom Line Sports Show. So, I want to, before I close the show out, I want to get into, obviously my soapbox moment. I always talk about the soapbox, and, I really don't talk too much in regards to, certain things that, again, emotions, because a lot of the times you can say stuff and you can have, a moment where you just all your emotions. I got to speak up about this whole situation in college basketball. And I say this with great respect and humility. To the city of Memphis, an unbelievable, beautiful, beautiful place. Love the people down there. Love the food. You know what I'm saying? I don't eat like that no more, but I love the barbecue as well as everything down there. Great, great environment. A great sports town. But I'm torn because there is a group of people that's down there that have been really just coming after Penny Hardaway, the head coach of the University of Memphis Tigers men's basketball program. Look, it's been a struggle. I will not sugarcoat this and say, you know what, it hasn't been a struggle. I'm going to say be the first. Team is not a good team this year. But I will say that I'm trying to understand. Like, they had a bad season. They're having a bad season. It's still a chance. They lost a large number of games since something that hadn't happened since early 2000s, right? I make no bones about that. However, I am stuck in this space of trying to understand. And I hope somebody can really support me in getting clarity on this, because all that I hear in just the time that Penny has been with the Memphis Tigers as their head coach, that it's just been a roller coaster. It's just, he hasn't done anything. He's been here 8 years. He hasn't won an NCAA tournament. He's only won one game in NCAA tournament. It's been this, it's been that. And I'm just sitting back and I'm saying, well, the landscape of college basketball actually changed since the time he's been there. I heard an unbelievable host who does a phenomenal job in coverage of college basketball, and obviously a native and graduate of Memphis. And I respect people's opinion, right? We live in a society now, we can't respect people's opinion. You have to agree with me or I have to agree with you. If not, it's going to be all hell, right? But I can respect a person's opinion and say that he needs to be gone. But I just want to be clear and understanding. Who do you think is going to come in and basically elevate this Memphis Tigers program when you are in the American Conference? Now, let's go back a little. In Penny's tenure, early on, the Memphis Tigers were a part of the American Conference, or still a part of the American Conference, that featured UConn, that featured Houston, that featured Cincinnati, that features UCF. You had teams in there that warranted the conference to be a multiple bid NCAA bid conference. But as time has gone on, you've seen UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, all left. Penny won in that time when they were there. Now, did he have the success in the NCAA tournament? No, right? I can look at a couple of things. Look, I remember one year, look, you win you win the conference tournament, or if you didn't win the conference tournament, you were not getting a 1 high seed. So you were playing teams that ultimately you know what? Higher power conference teams. I remember one year they won their game, and then the next game was Gonzaga. It's always been kind of a situation where it's unfortunate that you are judged on one game. So their whole season came down to one game, and they win this game in the NCAA tournament. So, for example, last year, you lost to Colorado State. Colorado State has had a NBA player, first-round pick, and Nick Clifford on their team. They lost their starting point guard, Tyrese Hunter. He got hurt before in the conference tournament before they played in the NCAA tournament. Penny had to schedule so hard to get a 5 seed because the conference is weak. The conference. So, for example, whoever wins this conference this year in the conference tournament, they're probably going to be either a double-digit seed, nothing higher than 9, because the other power conferences. So this whole belief and narrative of you need to get rid of them, who's going to come there, right? Who's going to come there? You're going to get an unproven head coach that comes there or a coach that's trying to resurrect their career. And guess what's going to happen? They're not going to stay there. If Memphis stays an American, they're not staying there 8 years. The moment you have success, they are leaving to a bigger job. Dusty May came from the Conference USA, in which they beat Memphis. They weren't a part of the American. Dusty May and them beat Memphis Tigers. They go to the Final Four. Dusty May goes into American Conference, has success. They get to the tournament, all that. He's gone. Michigan. American Conference and Memphis will be used as a launching pad for jobs for guys to go into bigger and better jobs. Just like Virginia Commonwealth. You know what I'm saying? All those places, Wichita State. So to have a guy stay 8 years, I think he stayed too long. I honestly believe he stayed too long. But my point being is they will not appreciate him. And I'm talking not every Memphis Tiger fan. The bulk of those that are out there, they're saying they want him gone. You're in the American Conference. This is a conference that if Penny doesn't schedule like he has scheduled and get those cupcake games and stuff like that, you still would be a 9, 10, 11, 12 seed. You're not going to be that. And unless the Memphis Tigers are able to get into a better conference, you're not a Power 5 conference. So I think at the end of the day, you learn to love the one that you're with and understand this is a terrible season. But the narrative of that he should be given just one more year. I don't know. I mean, I'm just baffled by this because honestly, how would the Memphis Tigers fans feel if Penny elevates this program, which he's done, see Nike and all the stuff, and obviously they're the premier program for the conference. How would fans feel if Penny next year, with success, they have a deep tournament run, which I don't believe is going to happen simply because the dynamic of college basketball has shifted to the point now that at the end of the day, if you're not a Power 5 conference, those days are over. You're not reaching the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. It's highly unlikely. Those days of seeing a UMBC, George Mason, Wichita State, that's not happening. NIL, collective money, controls a lot of that stuff. And now you have these Power 5 conferences, which the weakest one is actually perhaps the Big East. I think we would look at perhaps maybe a St. John's making it to the Sweet 16 as perhaps maybe a Cinderella. But at the end of the day, if they're fortunate enough to win a couple of games in the tournament next year, how would Memphis Tigers fans feel if Penny left for a bigger job? If Penny left for a bigger job, how would you feel? That's why I say it's only going to come down to a point that you will appreciate what you have when it's gone. That about wraps up the show. Like to thank Nick Ferguson. Like to thank all that's tuned in. Don't forget, we're back next week. Got to look at the schedule. We're going to be back because obviously we're closing in World Baseball. We're closing in on free agency. Oh, my Buccaneers do something. But at the end of the day, you still got the NBA right around the corner as well as college basketball. So stay tuned. make sure that you subscribe to the channel because we got so much coming up. You know, make sure you subscribe to the channel and be a part of what we're doing here. Follow me on Instagram, like me on Instagram, as well as on X, and just stay in tune. Bottom Line Sports Show. For Rick Mahorn, I'm Gerald Brown. You know what we say. Peace.